How do I discover meaning and fulfillment in a world that feels increasingly complex and transient? The following reflections, derived from age-old wisdom and tested by modern experiences, offer practical stepping stones on this path. Whether your challenge is finding inner calm, facing adversity, or understanding how to serve others, these guiding principles invite you to look inward and rise above the daily clamor to live a life of purpose, clarity, and growth. 1. The inward gaze, laying the foundation of meaning. Recognizing the seed of purpose, fulfillment in life has its roots in the awareness that each person carries a unique spark within. One notable perspective speaks of the intrinsic value of understanding one's mind first, the conviction that inside each of us lies a seed waiting for nourishment. When that seed receives the sunlight of self-awareness, it becomes the source of a deep-rooted sense of purpose. Without that initial attention turned inward, the search for meaning can be likened to drifting on an open sea without a compass. Everyone, regardless of external circumstances, is capable of introspection. It is the power to observe our internal dialogues, our emotional responses, and the undercurrents of our daily thought patterns. Through honest self-examination, we gain clarity regarding the values and desires that often remain obscured by habit, busyness, or cultural noise. The value of solitude. It is in solitude, moments of quiet reflection or mindful meditation, that the voices of deeper intuition become audible. One of the central teachings emphasizes embracing the stillness of the mind. By cultivating the practice of deliberate solitude, we learn how to filter out superficial chatter and focus on the more profound questions that only come to us when we are quiet enough to listen. This is not about secluding ourselves permanently, but instead about periodically seeking a retreat into the depths of our consciousness to recalibrate, reflect, and refocus. The mental vigil, a helpful exercise for the inward gaze, is a daily mental vigil. At a set time, whether morning or evening, devote a few minutes to reflect on your thoughts and deeds. Ask yourself, which pursuits brought me closer to my values and which led me astray? This brief but powerful habit has been lauded by certain ancient teachers as the gateway to self-mastery. When done consistently, it nurtures keen self-awareness and fosters a deliberate shaping of the mind over time. 2. The power of choice, recognizing the realm of control, drawing boundaries between what we command and what we do not. One of the pillars in these teachings is the assertion that the individual should focus on what is within their power, while calmly accepting what lies outside it. This principle, echoed across many wisdom traditions, forms a cornerstone for mental peace by training oneself to identify what can be controlled, namely personal thoughts, judgments, actions, and character, and what cannot, external events, the opinions of others, and random happenstances. One can let go of undue anxieties and channel energy into productive outlets. Liberation through intentional action. When you distinguish clearly between what is and isn't within your sphere of command, you are freed from the compulsion to fret about what you cannot change. This mental liberation emerges from a shift in perspective. Life no longer seems dictated by unpredictable external forces, but is viewed instead as a field in which the individual can always do something, namely shape their character and respond to circumstances in a way that aligns with their personal code. The choice to create meaning. Certain modern psychological traditions echo this ancient call. To live is to suffer, they say, but to find meaning in suffering is to transform it into a constructive path. Though some aspects of the modern experience, economic uncertainty, personal tragedies, social unrest, lie beyond our direct command, the way we choose to interpret and integrate these events in our personal narrative is ours alone. This interpretive lens can be powerful, allowing us to see hardships as catalysts for growth and moral refinement rather than as insurmountable barriers. 3. Finding purpose in service. How contributing to others elevates the self. Expanding the sense of self. One of the universal lessons across these philosophical streams is that people find some of their greatest joy and meaning in acts of service. There is a mysterious power in dedicating oneself to the common good, whether that community consists of friends, family, neighbors, or humanity at large. By assisting others through volunteer work, professional duties aligned with altruistic objectives, or even small acts of kindness, we grow beyond the narrow boundaries of personal interests. Paradoxically, by losing ourselves in the service of others, we discover a greater, more stable sense of who we are. Our personal fulfillment becomes interwoven with the happiness or relief we bring to those around us, creating a feedback loop of goodness that benefits both self and society. Cultivating empathy. An essential component of meaningful service is empathy. It is the willingness to place ourselves in the position of another, to try to understand their joys, their pains, and their challenges. Empathy transforms mere good deeds into profound encounters. From an ancient perspective, empathy is more than just an emotional exercise. It is also an intellectual discipline. We expand the boundaries of our awareness by truly considering the perspectives and experiences of others. This process fosters a unity among individuals, grounding our sense of self in the collective. The joy of shared existence. Living solely for oneself can feel empty and claustrophobic. Eventually, a person may realize that individual success means little if it never extends beyond personal gratification. By contrast, weaving personal hopes and actions into the broader tapestry of human relationships and communal progress opens up new dimensions of satisfaction, whether you're offering a listening ear or helping a stranger fix a flat tire. Each act of service can be a sacred moment of connection. As one wise teacher put it, fulfilling the obligations of our social nature is not merely a moral requirement, it is also a direct source of joy and meaning. 4. Embracing adversity as a tool for growth. Understanding difficulty as a form of training. A fundamental idea, often repeated in classic teachings, is that adversity, far from being an obstacle, can be an ally in the pursuit of a meaningful life. The adversity may take different forms: health challenges, financial setbacks, personal loss, social isolation, or existential dilemmas. Yet, in almost every case, hardship offers an opportunity to test and refine character. Instead of viewing problems as punishments or unfortunate quirks of fate, the approach promoted by these teachings is to see them as training grounds. Each struggle reveals weaknesses, assumptions, or latent strengths. Through adversity, we learn which areas of the self remain underdeveloped. Overcoming those difficulties, or even bearing them well if they cannot be overcome, polishes our moral and psychological resilience. Aligning suffering with meaning, one 20th century view, emphasizes the idea that human beings have a fundamental capacity to assign meaning to suffering. By attributing purpose to pain, we can transform tragedy into triumph. This does not romanticize suffering, nor does it suggest seeking out misery. Rather, it shifts perspective. If suffering becomes unavoidable, we can decide to perceive it not as pure misfortune, but as a chance for inner growth. Such an approach creates a mental shield against despair, allowing individuals to endure hardships without succumbing to cynicism or hopelessness. Learning through trials, consider adversity a teaching companion, Reflect on each setback or disappointment with these questions. What is this moment teaching me about my priorities? Which of my assumptions are being challenged? How can I adapt and emerge stronger, wiser, more generous? This method of self-inquiry reframes adversity. The crisis stops being solely the source of distress and becomes an enlightening, if harsh, mentor. 5. The practice of detachment, liberation from external trappings. Recognizing the transience of external goods, an integral practice handed down from ancient wisdom, is the art of detachment. This does not imply a joyless existence or the rejection of life's pleasures. Rather, it urges individuals to recognize the fleeting nature of material possessions, social status, and other external validations. By embracing the ephemeral aspect of these elements, a person becomes less susceptible to the pitfalls of envy, greed, or anguish over potential loss. This can be practiced daily. For instance, when taking pleasure in a cup of tea, remain aware that this enjoyment, like every delight, is fleeting. Holding this awareness does not diminish the joy, but rather enhances appreciation in the moment, while simultaneously easing the distress that arises when the moment passes. By training the mind to experience without clinging, one cultivates a form of mental freedom. The difference between use and dependence, another subtle concept within this principle, is the distinction between using external goods and depending on them. Using means appreciating and managing resources, wealth, relationships, social advantages, or physical comfort wisely, without letting them become the master of one's inner peace. Dependence occurs when our sense of worth or stability is entirely bound to these externals. The line between use and dependence is easily crossed if one fails to practice consistent self-awareness and discipline. An exercise in letting go. A practical exercise is to periodically conduct a mental or physical inventory of the items, comforts, and social validations you hold dear. Ask yourself, if this were taken from me, what would remain of me? Visualizing the loss of these attachments, even briefly, serves as a powerful check on obsessive clinging. Surprisingly, this exercise often leads to a greater appreciation for such goods in the present, unburdened by the fear of losing them. It reshapes the perspective from anxious possession to mindful stewardship of life's blessings. 6. The tempering of emotion, channeling passions constructively. Emotions as allies, not enemies. Classic traditions often emphasize self-restraint in the face of strong emotions. However, this does not mean suffocating or denying our emotional experiences. Emotions, anger, fear, joy, sadness, love, are integral to being human. The most balanced approach frames emotion as an ally, provided it is aligned with reason and virtue. When emotion is in harmony with thoughtful reflection, it empowers constructive action rather than fueling destructive impulses. The role of reflection. When a wave of strong emotion surfaces, pause for a moment. Reflect on its cause and potential consequences. This deliberate step back, even if only for a few seconds, can prevent rash decisions and reframe how one experiences the emotion. For instance, if we are angry about a perceived injustice, reflection can channel that anger toward a solution that upholds fairness. Without reflection, anger might spill into blind rage or vengeance. Transformation through emotional energy. Another principle revolves around the creative use of emotional energy. Rather than letting a feeling devour us, we can transmute it into something beneficial. Anxiety over an upcoming challenge can be turned into meticulous preparation. Sadness can be a spark for empathetic connections with others. In all these transformations, the underlying teaching is to remain the master of your own soul, using every emotional upsurge as raw material for growth, rather than letting it hijack your better judgment. 7. Anchored in the present moment. The futility of living in the past or future. From ancient times to modern psychology, one consistent piece of advice is that living in the present moment is crucial for well-being. Regret chains us to the past, worry and anxiety bind us to the future. Both keep us from fully experiencing the only reality we can actually inhabit, the present. Anchoring ourselves in the now brings mental clarity, emotional calm, and the capacity to respond more effectively to the tasks at hand. Mindful awareness, a tool often used in contemporary therapeutic settings yet foreshadowed in older teachings, is mindfulness, the gentle, non-judgmental observation of what is happening within and around you, moment by moment. Whether focusing on one's breath, scanning bodily sensations, or actively listening during a conversation, mindfulness fosters a state of presence that dissolves mental ruminations. Creative application of the now, the present moment, is also the canvas upon which we paint our future. By wholeheartedly engaging whatever task lies before us, be it working on a project, conversing with a friend, or simply taking a walk, we align the mind with purposeful action. This immersive engagement not only heightens the quality of our work and relationships, but also seeds future well-being. Indeed, the only place you can shape your destiny is in the now. Past regrets and future anxieties lose their grip as soon as we reorient ourselves to the task, opportunity, or duty immediately in front of us. 8. Purpose through virtue. Cultivating character as life's core mission. The concept of the highest good, the oldest sources of these teachings, often revolve around the pursuit of virtue as the highest good. Virtue here is understood as moral excellence and authenticity in thought, word, and deed. Pursuing virtue leads to a sense of fulfillment that transcends external measures of success. Instead of constantly chasing fleeting pleasures or competing for accolades, life's ultimate measure becomes character. Pillars of virtue, the cardinal dimensions often outlined, include wisdom, courage, discipline, and benevolence. Wisdom implies seeing the world clearly, free from ignorance or self-deception. Courage involves doing what is right in the face of fear or resistance. Discipline ensures moderation and self-control, preventing excess or reckless behavior. Benevolence or compassion fosters empathy, kindness, and concern for the well-being of others. When one or more of these pillars is neglected, the structure of a virtuous life becomes shaky. But when each pillar is continually strengthened through day-to-day practice, the individual stands on a firm foundation that no external crisis can easily topple. Integrity is a North Star. Integrity is often highlighted as the unifying aspect of virtue. If you commit to living by certain principles, honesty, fairness, responsibility, compassion, then preserving integrity means ensuring that your thoughts, words, and actions never stray from them. This sense of consistency generates an internal harmony and self-respect that acts as a perpetual wellspring of meaning. 9. The reframing lens, shaping perspective to shape reality. Reality versus interpretation. Another vital teaching shared across many wisdom traditions is the assertion that events are neutral. It is our interpretation that colors them as positive or negative. We can choose a perspective that emphasizes growth, gratitude, or opportunity, even in trying circumstances. This reframing does not deny real pain or injustice, but allows the individual to become an active participant in shaping their response to events, rather than passively succumbing to despair or resentment. Thoughts as the source of suffering or liberation, a well-known insight in both ancient philosophies and modern therapeutic methods, is that the mind is at once our greatest friend and our worst enemy. The interplay of thoughts and beliefs largely determines our emotional state. By learning to scrutinize our beliefs, is this true? Is it helpful to think this way? We can uproot unhelpful assumptions and biases. This critical self-examination fosters a more balanced, constructive outlook on life. Maintaining a broader view. A practical exercise for reframing is to step back from a problem and consider the grand scheme of things, sometimes called the view from above. It involves imagining yourself pulling farther and farther away from your immediate situation. First your room, then your neighborhood, your city, your region, eventually the planet. The personal tribulations that once felt overwhelming may then appear smaller and more manageable, opening space for perspective and calm reflection. 10. The role of self-discipline. Building inner fortitude daily. Small daily commitments. Ancient guides highlight that major transformations arise from small, consistent actions. Self-discipline is like a muscle that strengthens with use. Setting daily routines, whether that means maintaining an exercise schedule, reading uplifting material, meditating, journaling, or practicing a craft, create structure that fortifies the mind. Each small victory in keeping a commitment enhances confidence, resilience, and the belief in our capacity to shape our lives. Bridling impulses. Self-discipline also involves harnessing impulses. Part of self-mastery is learning to resist fleeting desires that compromise long-term well-being. A balanced self, it's often said, is neither repressed nor indulgent. Instead, one finds a stable middle path that maximizes the potential for growth and healthy relationships. When confronted with temptation, be it procrastination, overconsumption, or destructive habits, self-discipline reminds us of the bigger picture and our higher goals. The joy of mastery. Surprisingly, self-discipline, when practiced consistently, yields a form of deep joy. It frees one from the chains of compulsion and fleeting cravings. The result is a sense of liberation and autonomy. I am not just reacting to the world, I choose my path. That sense of personal agency creates meaning, as life ceases to be an accidental journey and becomes an intentional quest, guided by self-chosen values and commitment. Layer 11. Reflection on mortality, grasping the fragility of life to live fully. The impermanence principle. Classic thinkers often teach that reflecting on mortality, when done appropriately, motivates a fuller engagement with life. The ephemeral nature of existence can be a powerful lens that sharpens our understanding of what truly matters. If we remember that each day could be our last, trivial worries recede and genuine priorities rise to the surface. Gratitude and focus. Far from being morbid, healthy reflections on mortality instill gratitude. Every sunrise becomes an undeserved gift rather than an automatic occurrence. Every moment with loved ones carries renewed significance. At the same time, such awareness counters procrastination. If life is finite, then time is precious, and our use of it becomes more deliberate. Rather than drifting mindlessly, individuals choose actions and pursuits aligned with their deepest values. Embracing life's cycles. Acceptance of life's fleeting nature encourages alignment with the constant flux of change. Instead of clinging to a fixed image of ourselves, others, or even how events should unfold, we learn to adapt to the continuous flow of life's transformations. This acceptance can reduce the suffering that comes from resisting the inevitable, aging, departures, endings, transitions. By acknowledging these natural cycles, we invest energy into the present and do our best within the moment's parameters, thus finding fulfillment in each step of the journey. 12. community and fellowship, the social dimension of meaning. Strength in numbers. A recurring theme across numerous ancient discourses is that human beings are inherently communal. Though self-reflection and personal accountability are crucial, isolation is rarely considered ideal. We are social creatures who find expansion in the company of others. Healthy communities, whether families, friendships, professional teams, or broader social networks, can amplify a sense of meaning and provide emotional safety nets in times of crisis. Shared values. When people come together with shared values, the collective result often exceeds the sum of individual parts. Values such as honesty, benevolence, mutual respect, and commitment to a higher principle can create networks of support. The synergy that arises from collective efforts not only makes goals more achievable, but also nurtures morale and shared purpose. Reflecting upon your own network of relationships, do you feel supported? Do your interactions help you grow toward virtue and wisdom? If not, what changes can you institute? The art of interpersonal harmony. Classic wisdom offers a range of suggestions for maintaining harmony, assuming good intent until proven otherwise, practicing patience with others' faults, and avoiding gossip. A community thrives on trust, and trust emerges from consistent goodwill and a spirit of cooperation. People yearn to be recognized and heard, which means listening, truly listening, is as important as speaking. By minimizing friction and fostering empathy, we create social bonds that enrich life's tapestry, offering countless opportunities for meaning-making. 13. Confronting the shadow, facing inner darkness without fear. Acknowledging inner conflicts. While certain teachings elevate the idea of virtue, they also acknowledge that nobody is immune to darker impulses. Anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, cowardice. Our internal landscape is often a complex play of light and shadow. The call, therefore, is not to deny these emotions or impulses, but to face them squarely, understand their roots, and refine them into something more constructive. Shadow integration. In more contemporary therapeutic frameworks, the notion of integrating the shadow side has become popular. The principle is straightforward. If we deny or repress our negative traits, they often resurface in harmful or self-sabotaging ways. By acknowledging and examining them, we gain insights into hidden fears or unresolved traumas. This awareness becomes the doorway to transformation. Compassion for oneself facing inner darkness often requires self-compassion. It takes humility to admit faults and vulnerabilities, but humility does not entail self-abasement. Rather, it is the openness to see oneself clearly, warts and all, and still commit to growth. This approach fosters understanding and patience, both for ourselves and others who also wrestle with similar inner battles. 14. Overcoming despair, light in the darkness. The human capacity for hope. Sometimes life's burdens can seem overwhelming. Despair may loom when personal tragedies or existential crises strike. Yet these teachings emphasize that human beings possess a remarkable capacity for hope and resilience, even in the darkest hours. Hope can be chosen, nurtured, and protected, and it acts as a guiding light when the surrounding landscape seems bleak. The will to meaning. A mid-20th century perspective introduced the concept that beyond the will to pleasure or the will to power, human beings have a profound will to meaning. This desire to find purpose in every situation, especially in the face of suffering, becomes the secret weapon that allows individuals to endure. By asking, what is this suffering demanding of me? Or what lessons or contributions can I derive from my trials? A person shifts from passive victim to active learner and creator. Strategies to reignite purpose. When despair takes root, these steps can help reignite the sense of purpose. A. revisit your core values, write them down, and ask how you can realign your current activities with them. B. Seek fellowship. Reach out to trusted friends, mentors, or support groups. Shared burdens weigh less heavily. C. Set micro goals. If life's bigger goals feel daunting, break them into tiny steps that can be accomplished daily. Each completed step renews hope. D. Engage in service. Helping someone else in need can disrupt the self-focused spiral of despair, reminding us that we have something of value to offer the world. 15. The flow of accepting fate, transforming resistance into understanding. The principle of amor fati. A notable theme that runs through ancient moral writings is the notion of loving your fate. This means not only tolerating what happens to you, but embracing it as essential to your story. Each twist and turn, pleasant or painful, becomes recognized as the raw material through which you shape your character and destiny. Resistance versus surrender. Resistance to life's happenings, clinging to what once was, or obsessing over what might have been, often creates compounded suffering. Acceptance, on the other hand, is not passive resignation. It is an active openness to reality as it unfolds, combined with a determination to do one's best within that reality. By replacing "why me?" or "this shouldn't be happening" with "how can I use this situation for growth?" we transform adversity into a domain for purposeful action. Free will within fate. Although certain events are inevitable, we retain the freedom to choose our attitudes and responses. This interplay between external inevitabilities and personal moral freedom is foundational in many ancient systems. We can affirm, while I cannot control external outcomes, I always control my internal posture toward them. Such a stance preserves personal dignity and fosters a powerful sense of agency, even in the face of life's harshest trials. 16. The meaningful day, structuring time for purpose. The power of routines. Conscious structuring of daily life can bolster meaning. Simple routines, rising at a certain hour, reading or meditating before starting work, taking mindful breaks, reflecting before bed, anchor your day with purposeful rituals. These rituals remind the mind of its higher goals, preventing the day from slipping away in a flurry of reactive tasks, aligning tasks with values. In planning out your schedule, consider how each activity aligns with your deeper values. Even mundane tasks can take on new significance if they are framed as supporting the broader mission of your life. Whether you're doing household chores, studying, attending meetings, or exercising, remind yourself of the larger narrative. You are maintaining your environment, expanding your knowledge, contributing to a team, and nurturing your body. Each of these tasks becomes part of your personal tapestry of meaning. Periodic retreats. Consider scheduling more extended retreats from time to time. This might be a day or a weekend spent away from routine settings, devoted to reflection, reading, journaling, or simply being in nature. Such pauses recharge the mind and allow deeper insights to surface. They act as recalibration points, preventing you from drifting off course and ensuring that your daily routines continue to serve meaningful ends rather than devolving into mechanical repetitions. 17. The unseen impact, recognizing influence beyond immediate circles. The ripple effect. Actions driven by integrity and compassion often generate effects that extend far beyond our immediate circles. Even a simple gesture of kindness, helping a neighbor, offering a heartfelt compliment, can echo in that person's interactions with others. This ripple phenomenon underscores why it is vital to remain mindful of the small daily decisions that shape our behavior. The meaning we infuse into our lives can inspire meaning in others, creating a web of positive influence that surpasses our awareness. Contributing to collective growth, in an interconnected world, personal growth and the quest for meaning do not occur in isolation. Our strides towards self-improvement can encourage others to reflect on their own habits and attitudes. By aspiring to be a living example of kindness, patience, perseverance, or wisdom, we quietly mentor those around us. This does not mean instructing or admonishing others, but allowing genuine transformation to shine through in our conduct. Our very presence can become a beacon in a world often fraught with confusion and cynicism. The legacy of ideals. When an individual commits to living by higher principles, that commitment can outlast their physical presence. Consider the time someone else's steadfast dedication or courage profoundly moved you. Those virtues might have left a mark on your psyche, influencing your choices long after the initial encounter. In this sense, by dedicating ourselves to embodying meaningful ideals, we extend the reach of those ideals into future circumstances and even future generations. 18. Education for the soul, lifelong learning. Intellectual growth as a channel for purpose. Lifelong learning is another cornerstone in the pursuit of meaning. Studying philosophy, art, science, or any field of genuine interest stimulates intellectual humility and curiosity. The best ancient sources emphasize that acquiring knowledge is not merely a path to better professional opportunities, but a moral and existential endeavor. Knowledge enriches our ability to understand the world and respond to it ethically. Reflective reading, especially of profound texts that provoke self-reflection, is a direct means of mental cultivation. One of the older traditions encourages students to keep a personal notebook or journal to capture important insights, reflect on passages, and track personal evolution in thought. This practice, done consistently, leads to heightened self-awareness, refined reasoning, and a more stable moral compass. Evolution, not perfection. The goal is not to achieve a final state of intellectual or spiritual perfection. That would be impossible. Rather, the purpose is continuous evolution. Each day, each year, to grow more knowledgeable, more considerate, more aligned with virtue. Setting such an aspiration provides an ever-present sense of direction. No matter what circumstances arise, the quest for betterment through learning remains a stable anchor, yielding a sustained sense of meaning and engagement with life. 19. Resilience in relationships, the interplay between personal growth and love. Balancing self-cultivation with compassion. Some people worry that focusing on self-development might result in selfishness or isolation. On the contrary, these teachings stress that true development of character goes hand in hand with an expanding capacity for empathy, compassion, and understanding. If we are better at regulating our emotions, clarifying our values, and taking responsibility for our actions, we become more open, stable, and supportive partners, friends, colleagues, and community members. Difficult conversations as growth opportunities. Conflict in relationships is often where ideals are tested. Rather than avoiding tense conversations, individuals committed to these paths see them as opportunities to practice patience, assert truth kindly, and remain compassionate in the face of disagreement. Thus, interpersonal friction becomes a practical laboratory for the application of philosophical principles, enabling more mature, respectful, and meaningful connections. Unconditional support. Meaning in life is greatly magnified when we share it with loved ones or communities who understand and support our deeper values. Part of forging truly supportive bonds involves a willingness to meet others where they are, recognizing that everyone is on their own developmental path. Genuine friendship or love does not seek to impose rigid expectations, but strives for mutual growth and the flourishing of each person's unique gifts. 20. From idea to action, bringing principles into everyday life. The danger of intellectualization without practice. A cautionary note rings throughout ancient texts. It is easy to talk about virtue, compassion, meaning, and wisdom, but talk alone is hollow without consistent action. Real change happens when these principles are woven into daily life. If we read or hear a profound concept yet fail to test it in the crucible of personal experience, its transformative power remains dormant. Testing principles in small situations. The best way to embody these teachings is to start with small everyday scenarios. Stuck in traffic? Practice patience and perspective. Feeling slighted at work? Revisit the notion of controlling your response instead of raging against external events. A friend is in pain? Offer a listening ear. These modest but frequent applications cement the principles in our lives far more effectively than grandiose but isolated gestures. Measuring progress. While it's best to avoid obsessive self-criticism, occasional assessments of how well we are living our stated ideals can be valuable. Ask yourself in a gentle, reflective tone, have I been kinder today than yesterday? Am I making more constructive use of my time than before? Do I see a shift in how I respond to adversity? Honest answers, even when they reveal shortcomings, pave the way for renewed commitment and improvement. 21. Overcoming cynicism, the affirmation of goodness. The threat of disillusionment. Modern life, with its news cycles of scandals, corruption and conflicts, can breed cynicism. Cynicism whispers that the pursuit of virtue or meaning is naive, that people are irredeemably selfish, and that life is fundamentally without purpose. However, these classic and modern teachings counter that purpose. However, the potential for goodness and moral progress still resides in every human being. Choosing trust and optimism. Placing trust in life's innate potential for goodness does not mean ignoring problems or refusing to acknowledge evil. Instead, it is an affirmation that while suffering and wrongdoing are real, individuals retain the capacity to choose a better path. This uplifting perspective fosters resilience. It combats the hopelessness that stifles action. By adopting an attitude of trust in the possibility of improvement, both personal and communal, we light a small flame of hope that can energize our behaviors and relationships. Inspiring change through example. When cynicism is widespread, living by these principles becomes an even stronger statement. By embodying integrity, kindness, and purpose in a skeptical environment, we become living proof that cynicism is not the only option. Our conduct can challenge negative expectations, showing that authenticity and moral growth are not pipe dreams, but viable realities. The quiet power of example can shift mindsets more effectively than heated debates or arguments. 22. Appreciating the ordinary, the meaning found in everyday life. The sacredness of simple moments. Though some paths to purpose involve extraordinary achievements, there is immense value in discovering meaning in the ordinary. Daily routines, preparing food, cleaning a room, performing one's professional responsibilities, conversing with neighbors, can harbor a profound sense of purpose if approached with mindfulness and gratitude, rather than waiting for dramatic moments to ignite a sense of fulfillment. We can find that life's tender, commonplace details hold subtle wonders. The beauty of consistency. Some ancient voices speak admiringly of the person who quietly tends to their duties, day in and day out, with diligence and kindness. There is nothing flashy about consistency, no parades, no trophies, but it builds a life that resonates with stability and trust. Small acts of daily responsibility and integrity, repeated over years, shape an enduring character and a sense of deep satisfaction. Elevating the mundane. Try an experiment for a day. Approach each chore or everyday interaction as an opportunity to express virtue or practice mindfulness. Notice the textures, sounds, and patterns that might usually escape attention. Recognize the interdependence between your effort and the well-being of others. By actively looking for meaning in the mundane, you transform routine tasks into vital, purposeful experiences. 23. Perseverance and adaptability, thriving through changing circumstances. The constant flux of life. Another repeated insight in these teachings is that life is in perpetual motion. We live in a constantly changing environment, both physically and socially. Clinging to a static view of the self or reality breeds frustration as circumstances shift around us. Instead, we are encouraged to cultivate adaptability, meeting changing conditions with both steadiness of principle and flexibility of method. Perseverance in the face of setbacks. When confronted with failure or uncertainty, perseverance is the antidote to despair. Combining perseverance with the humility to learn from mistakes fosters not just survival but evolution. We become more resourceful, more creative, and more attuned to the nuances of our situation. This synergy between persistence and openness to change allows personal growth even under severe pressure. Embracing new chapters. Often, new chapters in life, new jobs, relationships, or personal stages provoke both excitement and apprehension. Yet each transition can be viewed through the lens of opportunity, an invitation to apply learned lessons in a novel context or to refine virtues that may have gone underused. By greeting change not as a threat, but as a landscape ripe for purposeful engagement, we maintain a resilient, forward-looking attitude. 24. Overcoming ego. Humility as a portal to meaning. The subtlety of ego. Ego can blind us to reality by inflating our sense of self-importance or convincing us we are the exception to the rules of life. Whether through craving validation or fearing criticism, an unchecked ego distracts from authentic growth and fuels a cycle of discontent. Recognizing and balancing ego is thus a central element in finding meaning. Humility as strength. Some might mistake humility for weakness or servility, but true humility is an immense strength. It keeps the mind open to correction, fosters a willingness to learn, and encourages harmonious relationships. Humility protects against arrogance, ensuring that when achievements come, they do not become traps that isolate us from others or from further self-development. Practices to tame ego, frequent check-ins. Regularly question your motivations. Am I doing this to serve a greater purpose, or just to prop up my image? In the critique, seeking honest feedback from trusted allies can dismantle illusions of perfection. Celebrate others' accomplishments. Train the mind to rejoice in someone else's success, seeing it as a collective gain rather than a personal threat. 25. Continuous renewal, the journey, not the destination. Embracing the ongoing process. All these teachings, from controlling our responses to adversities, to living in alignment with virtue, to discovering purpose in service, highlight that life's quest for meaning is never a box we definitively check off. It is a continuous process of learning, failing, reflecting, and improving. Each day, each year can be an invitation to grow. Knowing this can be liberating. Perfection is not expected. Sincere effort is. Recommitment and reflection. Even individuals deeply committed to these principles can drift into complacency or slip into old habits. That is why the practice of regular recommitment is essential. This can be done weekly, monthly, or as needed through journaling or discussion with a trusted friend or mentor. By revisiting core values and aspirations, we ensure that we maintain our course and detect any subtle deviation. The fulfillment of being on the path, meaning and fulfillment reveal themselves most vividly when we realize we are travelers on a noble path, not simply inhabitants of random existence. The path is lined with opportunities to embody virtue, love more deeply, understand more clearly, and serve more selflessly. This sense of journey transforms life from a series of disconnected events into a coherent, purposeful narrative. Even if the final destination remains unknown, living wholeheartedly each step of the way becomes its own reward. Concluding reflections. A life of significance. This guide presents a tapestry of insights drawn from diverse sources, ancient philosophical systems that emphasize virtue, resilience, and rational mastery over one's own mind, as well as modern approaches that illuminate the critical role of meaning in psychological and emotional well-being. The overarching message is that the path to finding fulfillment in life does not require extraordinary circumstances or innate brilliance. It requires a deliberate effort to know oneself, to align actions with values, to serve others, and to interpret adversity as a catalyst for growth. Such a path invites us to see the dignity in every moment, from solitary reflection to communal celebration, from the simplest chore to the greatest personal challenge. The quest for meaning is deeply personal, yet profoundly universal. In choosing to live these principles, we become part of a lineage that spans centuries, a lineage not of names, but of ideals. Those ideals continue to guide the human heart, reminding us that no matter how chaotic or uncertain life may become, purpose and fulfillment remain close at hand, waiting to be recognized, nurtured, and shared. Every day is a fresh opportunity to awaken our potential, to forge deeper connections, and to affirm the enduring truth that in the grand tapestry of existence, each thread matters. By weaving our own vibrant threads, through acts of kindness, self-improvement, community engagement, and reflective growth, we help shape a more meaningful world, both within and around us. And in that endeavor, we discover the kind of contentment that no external hardship can fully extinguish, for it arises from the very core of our being,